we go. So, welcome. This is the first podcast. Thank you for being on, and let's dive in. I want to start with kind of give me a view of what was your childhood like? Like, what formed the way you think about things? Were there important people or experiences, or just...
Yeah, I think my parents were a really key part to that, specifically because they just kind of let me be who I was. They didn't really impose a lot of restrictions or labels on who I am or how I should be. Kind of let me just figure things out on my own. So I mean that really shaped the way I think because I had to figure everything out.
Yeah. So what did they do?
Do you mean like what did they do for work or like what did they do?
Yeah, or hobbies, or like what was like your childhood like? Apart from them letting you do your thing, like
Well, I mean, my parents worked. They would go to work like 9 to 5, that sort of thing, normal corporate jobs. Mm-hmm. And then I went to school, and I'd get out of school and do my homework, and then I'd go skateboard for a while, explore the neighborhood. We did a lot of paintballing, a lot of just kind of doing whatever, kid stuff. Yeah.
Where was this at?
Columbus, Ohio. Between Westerville and Columbus, mostly.
Interesting. So I spent a lot of time up toward Cleveland, but I don't know a whole lot about Columbus. Mm-hmm. Have you been to both? Like, do you know what the...
Yeah, I had a friend in Cleveland. The music scene's pretty cool up there. They've got a bunch of really good venues like the Grog Shop and Peabody's Down Under. Mm-hmm. And then Columbus has got a pretty good music scene as well. I think because it's so boring there, people... It's true though. I mean, it's so boring there that people just get like creative and start doing random stuff because there's not... I don't know what it is about it. I mean, it's like a city just like any other city, but it's really unbearable. Everybody who lives there moves. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay. So, did you play any sports or anything growing up, or was it mostly just kind of tootling around doing your thing?
Yeah, I mean, I played soccer a little bit. Like when I was real young, I want to say like maybe 6, and I remember my coaches would always tell me, because I was always doing my own thing, to stay away from the pack, the group, mm-hmm. Because the ball would often go away from there, and then I'd be like, hey, look, free ball.
Hey, look, it's me. Yeah, I got it.
Exactly. Just doing my own thing over here. I also like baseball a lot, actually. The only thing I really didn't like about it is I always got stuck on teams where people weren't as invested in the game as I was, and that would drive mm-hmm. me crazy when they'd just be like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to practice. I'm not going to take this seriously at all. Baseball. I did martial arts too, Taekwondo for a while. And then after I got my first degree black belt, I would spar with like friends, and they'd like study Muay Thai, Kempo, things like that. Mm-hmm. And as far as like activities, sports and things like that go, that's probably about it. More, I guess, like sports that aren't like considered, I guess, like normal sports were. Like I skateboarded a lot, BMX'd, rock climbing.
Seems to be a common theme up north.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember one time I fell down this gigantic, it was just a big dirt mound on my bike, and it was, I don't remember specifically why that event sticks out so much in my head. I think it was because it was like I was afraid to go up there, and exactly what I was afraid of happened, but it was kind of okay afterwards. Like it didn't, I wasn't completely broken or anything like that.
Right, you weren't jumping an 80-foot thing and like shorted it.
No. But I did fall. I want to say I broke a lot of things too, like growing up, like fingers, hands, wrists.
Yeah.
Between like skateboarding and stuff like that.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Riding around on concrete, that always scared me. Because I grew up on a farm, so I was used to dirt, and I was like, okay, I've fallen here plenty of times, not so bad.
Yeah. I liked to climb trees a lot too when I was a kid. I remember the first house we lived in, we had a big tree in the backyard. I probably wasn't very big, but being little, like, I remember it appearing to be gigantic. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
It's pretty crazy how when you're a kid, things seem like, okay, that tree's tall, but fuck it. And then you get up there and you're like, oh, that's a 2-story barn. I'm looking over it.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing about like perspective is really weird because as you grow, not only just, in height and things like that, but your mental capabilities, like, being an adult. I never, you're a kid, you're like, oh, I can't wait to be an adult or whatever. And even if you're not like really enthusiastic about it, I think just inherently people want to be older to be like, take me seriously. But I had no idea being like a grown up, an adult, whatever, it was more about the perspective change, like the way your brain finally stops molding and you're all of a sudden aware of so much more stuff. Like there's stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Theories, ideas, hierarchies, and not only that, but I mean just it's weird to see that like you learn about the sun and how plant then creates energy from the sun directly, photosynthesis and that sort of thing. And then the plant becomes food for another animal and the animal becomes food for you. And then all of that, it's just a big long cycle. And then you learn about, like the ethics that go into each step and what is moral and all of that. And you just keep learning more and more and more.
Yeah, you can go in any rabbit hole in any direction.
Yeah.
And especially with, I think, probably every generation that's had to experience the internet, but I think ours in particular, where we had both.
Yeah.
We're not quite had it our whole life, and even if when we was young, it wasn't what it is.
Yeah.
So just that exposure to like, holy crap, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
And going and going. And I'm wrong about a lot of things.
Yeah, the internet's totally revolutionized the whole perspective thing because you really can just go any perspective anywhere. I mean, you use information to make decisions. So what happens when we do gather perfect information? Is that even possible?
I don't think so. I think we've learned so much that we've learned that we don't know anything.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly
kind of a mindfuck.
The paradoxical aspect of life there.
Yeah, and I think that's possibly why a lot of people don't bother learning that far, because they have a feeling that they're going to get to a point where they realize nothing matters, and then they don't want to go there.
I don't think that it's that nothing matters. I think it's again is all about perspective. I mean, if you want to have a very specific perspective on something, you can quite literally go and seek the information to change your perspective to be exactly what you want it to be. Yeah. I mean, we live in this like almost godly world now where we can create and do almost anything.
Mm-hmm. What do you want? Or you want to 3D print something?
Yeah, seriously. You want a house? Let me print you a house.
You want to print skin?
Yeah, no, that's a thing now too. It's crazy that technology just keeps advancing like that because, I mean, it's what are generations later going to do? Is there a saturation point where we have so much technology and information that we just really can't comprehend it or work with it? It's just too overwhelming, like all of our senses are overwhelmed, that sort of thing.
I think so.
Biological human beings.
I think so, though.
Yeah.
I was learning. Someone was explaining how when things start growing, especially like you've got like the level of cells. Mm-hmm. Cells are just a whole bunch of these little other atoms that like get to a point where the membrane can't expand anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to start multiple cells,
mm-hmm.
and then it just keeps going and going to where there's no thing that can be in a limited size. It has to break and be lots of little things working together. So somehow we're gonna have to, not that we aren't already, but in a different sense, because our brains are reaching their limit of, at some point we're not gonna be able to absorb everything.
Yeah.
We can't process everything as it is. So
it's a weird concept to think about.
What does that mean? Because people seem to be scared, especially in conspiracy theories, about the hive mentality and like New World Order and stuff. And I'm like,
the board.
Yeah.
Assimilated.
But I think that's a very negative way to look at it. There's got to be a way we can set intent for what we want and work toward a goal rather than be scared of something that isn't even real yet.
Yeah, technophobia is really interesting to see people afraid of like new technologies and things like that. Like there's a running joke that like I want to say it's like everything from your 30s and after is like weird and foreign and crazy, and like everything before that's like new and interesting and just the way it is, you know.
And under like 15 is like, oh, it's just natural. It's the way it's always been.
Something like that. Yeah, that's a weird thought as well.
Yeah, especially when you get just old enough to realize that you don't, like, you're just enough past, let's say, college and younger that it's different. Like, people see things completely different than you do. Like the way you did when you were that age.
Yeah, that's always something weird too. Like when you think about thoughts, I guess more like experiences. Like when you think about experiences that you've had when you were younger or something, and then with your new perspective, and you see it in a totally different light, and you're just kind of like, oh, that's totally a whole different thing now. Like the meaning and everything completely changes. That's weird as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, going back to you, what were the maybe a few like pivotal points that changed you and made you get to the point you are now?
Oh man, that's tough.
I mean, whatever you're comfortable with, but
no, I mean, like it's hard to think about those sorts of things because the way that I think about my life, it's a continuous thing, and so to think that like there's been very specific moments is a foreign idea to me almost, because I think about like determinism, so quite literally everything that happened is made me who I am. So I guess some of those big pivotal points I guess would be like philosophy. Like when I first got into philosophy, it's probably about 7th or 8th grade, something like that.
Yeah.
So I was studying humanities. Art, religion, literature, and philosophy of different secular areas in time. I was fascinated by the great minds, I guess you could say, and how they perceived things at the time with the information that they had. So I guess like studying humanities was a big pivotal point.
Was there a particular person that you were reading that struck you or like really made you think about things or something?
The allegory of the cave.
Yeah.
That's always been my favorite, and the first metaphor that really just took a hold of me is the idea that there's a man sitting with like a low bench, like as high as this table or so, with his back against it, and somewhere behind there is a fire, and he can see shadows on the walls and like hear voices and things, and that's his whole life. That's all he can understand right now. Well, what if he became unshackled? Like he was restrained against the wall. So what if he was able to stand up and look at the people making the noises, whatever it is making the noises? What he can actually see the fire or the light source. What if it's not a fire? What if it's a different source of light that
a flashlight that Doctor Who left behind?
Yeah, exactly. Something, I mean, like, who knows? And then what if he leaves the cave and just goes outside and explores his environment? So with all that new information, can you ever go back to just sitting against the wall with that same limited perspective? And I don't think you can. I think there's a lot of things that you learn as you go through life that you can't unlearn.
Yeah, short of brain trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it goes full circle to exactly what we were just talking about before with like the being a kid and then having different perspectives later on. Like you can't go back in terms of your perspectives. Yeah, so that was a big pivotal point.
Yeah, it worked out very nicely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, as far as any others though, I mean, like I think athletically and stuff, like getting into skateboarding, having those sorts of opportunities, having the opportunities to try a lot of different things, like paintballing, stuff like that, see what I like, what I don't like. I think just kind of all of those in general, like just everything that's happened is kind of been, in my view, important.
Definitely.
to being who I am.
So would you say, I feel like there's a sense of lessons you learn from team sports like soccer where there's still independent.
Teams suck.
They certainly
For the
can.
most part. But yeah.
But there's definitely, I think some people take away from that, especially on a lot of football teams.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
They really get the camaraderie and the group effort.
Yeah.
But then when you do things like skateboarding or whatever, you get a sense of independence where it's all on you.
Yeah, I definitely am very independent, I think. I've always kind of had to be, though.
Yeah.
Just because, if I wanted to go do something and there was nobody else to go do something with, well, I'm going to just go do it,
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as like team sports and things and camaraderie go, I mean, that's all fun. It's definitely, you can get that from like independent things as well. You can be independent while being part of a group, I think, which is almost like a paradox.
Well, but no. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all one, but we're all...
Yeah, I mean, like they call them crews, I guess, like when you skate with a crew or whatever, and then that way, you can like make skateboarding videos together, teach each other tricks. It's still a shared experience, but I think it's more of an independent shared experience where your experience is almost like more unique to yourself. Like the team's success, somebody else's success isn't necessarily your success in that sort of aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I think this maybe was just like a North thing. I don't know. Maybe people did it down here, but we had this one skate park we always go to.
Yeah.
And they had like the half pipes, and I used to do the rollerblades instead of the skateboard because a friend of mine.
Didn't like.
Yeah, everyone hated them,
Yeah.
but I just didn't care.
Booter.
Exactly. But for me, it was that I had a friend who was skateboarding and he tried to do a kickflip, but he like messed up and like nicked his sack, and
Yeah,
after that I was
yeah.
like, I don't want.
Oh yeah, that's happened.
I just didn't want to ever have that problem.
Yeah, I don't know what it was that I was so fascinated with skateboarding. I mean, I still like it a lot, even to this day. I got hired to do sound for an event recently, and so I was hanging out there running sound, and in between sets, I was like, it was a really nice concrete floor, so I grabbed my skateboard and kind of skated around in this warehouse. It was really fun. I don't know what it is specifically about it that just captures my interest. It's skateboarding. Like, I mean, you would think after breaking like all of my fingers, my wrists, my ribs, ankles, toes, feet, like I'd be like, no, I don't want to skate anymore. It's dangerous. But I'm like, I want to go skate.
Yeah, there's definitely something about it.
Yeah.
I found that extreme sports like that were, because my brain was always going. I had trouble seeing and hearing when I was little, so I think a lot of my energy got put inward because I didn't have anywhere to put it externally.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's hard for me to be completely present in something. And extreme sports force you to, because otherwise you're gonna fall off that cliff or whatever.
Totally. Yeah, you'll get hurt, man.
So maybe that's part of it. The skateboarding is inherently dangerous, a little bit more so than the other.
Yeah, maybe. I do tend to like, I guess, more risky endeavors. Dirt biking, things like that. Really fun. I like it a lot. Adrenaline junkie of some sort. Give me all the caffeine you got. Let's go, Red Bull.
All right, so leading up to, so that's like past now, coming into the present. Like, what is your life right now, and how has your past impacted? Like, how have you gotten to where you are?
Do you mean like here in Georgia, or like what I'm doing professionally, or like hobby wise, or?
Any of them, or all
Any
of
of
them? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess presently I have a very full life right now. I have a professional career that I'm pursuing in sales with my business management degree, and like hobby wise, spin fire, make music, skateboard still, like whenever I can. Still try to rock climb whenever I can. But I mean, it takes up a lot of, everything takes up a lot of time. I'm always doing stuff, like interviewing for a podcast. Yeah. So I guess presently, I mean, I'm trying to, I guess, figure out the next move. Like, what do you do when your life is so full and rewarding? Like, is it can it be better? Is this something I should try to sustain and maintain for as long as possible? Is it unrealistic? I don't know. I've never really been in this sort of position before. Yeah, it's kind of weird to think about.
Where you have to start reflecting because you do so many things.
Sort of. I mean, like growing up, I didn't have. I was always working really hard because my family didn't really have a lot of money, so anything I wanted, I had to work really hard for. Well, okay, well I've got all the material things now, so I don't really have to work as hard. I don't really have any debt anymore because I worked hard to pay it off. So it's like, financially, it's not like there's no goals financially to work towards. I mean, other than savings, 401k, that kind of thing. But so then it comes down to, what do I want to do? Well, I mean, I've got a pretty good career professionally. I've got a lot of hobbies that are fun and interesting, and I enjoy doing them. But then, what's beyond that? Like, what's the next step? Like, do you pursue a different career, or do you just stay in the same one? Like, I'm at that weird position in life where I get to define what I want to be, who I want to be. And so I've never really had to spend a lot of time thinking about that before. It's always been so consumed with everything else, trying to
get out of the grind.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird.
Are there...
Not in a bad way.
Yeah, well, isn't that kind of the goal, right? To get to that point?
Yeah, but then there's no instructions on what to do after that.
There's no instructions.
Exactly. It's like you get there and then what? It's I don't know. It's like rushing to a red light almost. You get there and then instead of a road, it's just open. It's a desert. I mean, and then which direction do you want to go? What do you want to do once you're out there? Do you stay in the car? Do you get out of the car? Do you build a house? Do you start a family? Do you not? Do you just keep traveling and see where it goes? I mean, it's overwhelming how many options are out there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of why marketing back when PR came to really be, they're like, no, they need fewer options.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because then when you have limitless options, it's really difficult to decide what you want to be or what you want to do. And then it almost feels like a waste to not decide, like not to transform into something that you want to be, or at least try to.
Yeah. That seems to be a lot of people's issue, is that they don't really know what they want because they've only ever had to follow the path, keep going to school, keep whatever, but don't worry about anything else because you can't.
Yeah. Like if money were no option and society didn't exist any sort of like peer pressure kind of way trying to tell you what to be, what to do, what do you do? I mean, I don't know. Like it's so overwhelming to think about that you could, like in those sort of circumstances, like if you could have food or whatever, I mean, do you just hang out or explore? Or it's just weird. I don't know.
I wonder if that's why when people started realizing they could rule over people, they're like, we need to take away this. They're not doing anything. They could be doing my thing. I don't even think I would I don't even know that I would enjoy that. I mean, I guess like if I wanted to be like, man, I want a big gigantic castle. I'm gonna get people to build me a big gigantic castle and then rule over them. Like that doesn't sound appealing to me. Yeah, but isn't it crazy that that's pretty much exactly what happened? I mean, I guess. Someone was like, you know what? You should be doing what I want you to do. Yeah. And then kind of figured out how to make them do it. Yeah, you want to talk about like butterfly effect. Like who was that first guy that was like, I'm gonna get you to do one thing for me? I've got an idea. It's an interesting concept though, because it's essentially what humans figured out how to do is leverage energy. Yeah. Whether it's other people's or plants or technology or whatever. I was having fun with a thought the other day, how kind of breaking down the humanitarian aspect of being human. Like, if you really think about it, we consume all of this other, complex energy and things like that you want to, like food and stuff like that. A berry is quite literally sun and nutrients combined to be a berry, and then you eat that, and really all you do with it is create thoughts and synapses, fire synapses and stuff. And so essentially all we really are is like these thought machines that just
constantly consume other forms of energy and just transform it into thoughts, essentially.
Yeah. And then mushrooms come along and fuck everything up.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, well, so I guess now that we kind of know who you are and what you think about life, so what, in this state that you're in now, where you kind of have time to think about stuff, that's really what it comes down to, because you've gotten rid of most of the obstacles. So what's left? What do you still feel like is directly impacting you, either positively or negatively, in the world? What's going on that is worth focusing on now?
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, like everything is still impacting me just the same way it was before, but I guess I have a bit of a different perspective. So, I still have to make money. I still have to go to work. I still have to pay attention to those sorts of things, even if I don't want to. I think that's kind of what I'm struggling with too right now, is trying to figure out like that sort of like what is important to me right now, because so many different things are always going to impact me. Yeah, I don't know. I guess the things that positively impact me are going to be like relationships, people who are friends and make my life more fulfilling. We get to do things together, that sort of thing. Makes you happy. Releases oxytocin. Positive impacts. I don't know. What are some normal things, I guess, that like people are positively impacted by?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty easy to look at, okay, well, as much as people complain about government or being controlled by different corporate interests and stuff, at the end of the day, we have a really freaking awesome life in this country anyway.
Oh, yeah.
For me, I really dislike the fact that all comes on the backs of other people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not necessarily my fault, but I am a contributing factor. So that's something that...
Yeah, I see exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, that is... I mean, social injustices, that's something I've always been very interested in. Because you're right, it's very difficult to know. Like, what role you have in the big machine.
Because it was like that when I was young, so it's natural and just always like that.
Yeah,
Just
being
shitty.
self-aware.
Yeah. So it could be things like that, or for some people it's as simple as, all right, well, we've got all these issues and people are having so much trouble. If you want to look from a corporate perspective, well, traffic is a huge waste of time, which if time is money, then that's an issue. We could fix that with actually having public transit that works.
Yeah, I mean, you can work from home, fuck it.
Yeah, that's another option. Like
living in the Internet of Things, man. I mean, everything is connected to the internet these days. You could quite literally just do most anything from a laptop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or there's like the issue of how automation and robotics are pretty much going to take out, let's say, a solid 25% of the labor force, just because most of it's transportation. So if you have automatic cars, if you have like shipping containers and things like that, well, that's a whole bunch of jobs, like a port authority, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Manufacturing, all these things that are tedious, repetitive tasks that people make mistakes on. Robots work for a lot cheaper and don't really make mistakes unless they're malfunctioning.
Yeah, I would love to see almost everything get automated. As a society, we get to a point where we don't really have to use money anymore, because there are no like real jobs to... I mean, there would be things to maintain, but what would be the point if our food grows automatically, our transportation is automatic, we don't have any real jobs? I think that's a crazy thing to think about, because I think people would get to a point similar to like what I'm experiencing right now, where I'm just like, man, I don't have any real problems right now. I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, and there's like the realistic possibility that, yeah, for a lot of people, they would decide what they want to do and, like, I don't know, go travel or whatever. But some people would think, oh, how can I manipulate the situation? And so it sucks because I don't think that way.
Yeah, I don't think that way either.
But there's 7 billion people, so
that is very true.
Yeah, 7
You're
billion.
right. Yeah, it's growing like every day. Well, that's actually really funny that you say that, because that was the number when like you and I were growing up. I want to say that I looked it up recently. I think it's like closer to like 9 now. It's like 8.5 or something like that. Yeah, it grows very quickly, like exponentially.
And what scares me about the population growth is that it's not here, it's in slums, it's in India, it's in American stuff, and that's not a good situation. I don't want that to be where people are thriving.
Idiocracy.
Well, more than that, I mean, there's concrete and walls and squares and cubes and sex, just like rampant selling people for prostitution and stuff. It's not a pretty picture.
No, that's not okay. And that's something, it's weird because, I mean, that, you know, in multiple different degrees, I guess that's something that would impact me, but it's something that I don't really experience or see at all. Mm-hmm. So
this is rough. I wouldn't either if it wasn't for documentaries and YouTube. I mean,
exactly. Netflix. I spend so much time just watching movies on Netflix these days. Oh my god.
Yeah, and as an actor, I think about characters when I watch that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like
movies. And the one thing I almost never see characters in movies doing, the ones that people usually like, is watching TV, but that's what I do all the time. And it's not even like Game of Thrones; it's documentaries and stuff.
Yeah. I don't like a lot of I like Star Trek, like sci-fi stuff, but it's like Game of Thrones and like Dexter and stuff like that. Like I don't feel there's any real substance to a lot of them. A lot of them, I feel like it's just people wanting to see people get stabbed and killed and get naked and stuff just like that.
Entertained.
Yeah.
But we have, what's that called? The mirror nerve, where when you watch something or somebody doing something, it lights up your brain just about the same as if you were actually doing it. So, like when you see people have sex in porn, it's lighting up your brain the same way as if you were having sex, even if you're not. And that's unlimited.
So it's like empathy.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But what are we choosing to empathize with?
Yeah.
All these horror films and stuff, like The Hostel or Grudge or whatever it is. I don't even know. No, what is it?
I don't think I've seen either.
It's for the best.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I don't know, like when I watch shows and stuff, it's mostly just like, like Star Trek series, things to do in my downtime. Like when I got, I'll wake up 20 minutes before my alarm goes off. What am I going to do for those 20 minutes? Watch an episode or something.
Yeah.
Maybe read a book.
Books.
I like books.
Yeah.
It's weird because I don't really meet a lot of people who read randomly. Like I meet people tend to, at least in my experiences, people I've met tend to like this one author, and then they'll go through and they'll read all those books, and then they'll go and find books that are similar to that sort of thing, and they follow down like this linear path of how they choose to read. And I feel like people are just like, oh, you should read this. I'm like, all right, yeah. Like I don't care what it is. Yeah, let's read it. I don't feel very.
So what kinds of things do you usually read?
Exactly.
I mean, literally everything. But on the times when you choose to pick something up, do you go to a certain section sometimes? Or do you just jump around?
Yeah, I just kind of jump around. Like I just finished up a book about like how to travel the world on $50 a day or less, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good book actually. It's very informational. I like it a lot. I'm gonna use the crap out of that book. Information. But I mean, the next thing I'm about to read is like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a satirical thing, I think. I don't really know too much about it. And somebody was just like, you should read this. It sounds like this. We're talking about something. They're like, this book is like basically what you're talking about. You should read it. I'm like, all right. But it's like it's called Flatland. It's like a 2-dimensional object living in a 3-dimensional world. And it's like they're just like
Flat
geometric. Yeah, but they're just like geometric shapes. But I guess they're like personalized, and one they fall in love, but it's like impossible. I don't know. It sounds weird. But
Shapes of love.
Yeah, basically. But I mean, it's interesting, and so my friend was like, "You should read it." And I was like, "All right." I guess that's my theme of things I read is basically just almost anything anybody suggests.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about writing a book?
Yes, multiple times. I don't know that I possess the capabilities to write a book. I was
Sure you do with Amazon.
Yeah, well, I was always very bad with English. I still am. I struggle with the ideas of knowing how much a person knows and how to properly convey the message that I'm trying to say. Because in my head, it's just all this just thought everywhere. And I don't know how much of it I need to put out, basically, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like video, because especially with YouTube and their annotation series, I can use a mind map and get all my thoughts out and go down every rabbit hole, and then just make them into like 3 to 10 minute videos and link so people can choose how far down they want to go.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, in a sense, I think that's also why I like music so much, is because it's, I mean, you just pick up an instrument and start essentially playing what you're thinking. You just do that endlessly. Like, it doesn't have to be any sort of like real rhyme or reason. People just, the message that it sends is still completely open to interpretation. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've wanted to write a book about all the weird metaphors and like philosophical things I think about. I have the idea for the concept of it and how I would want it presented, but I don't know how to nail down exactly what I want to be in there, as well as like, I don't know, I guess the purpose of it, I guess, would be to kind of try to get people to think the way I do, almost, but in a more open sort of sense.
Like, use the system of the way you think rather than have your thoughts think what I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Basically just think for yourself and how to obtain information and how to manipulate the information to provide different perspectives. And sort of the things that I first thought about that created that. As an example, I realized that in a sense, you can't ever actually die because you'll never experience death, because by the time you're dead, by definition, you're dead, so you can't comprehend it. If it takes light, I think it's like 0.0083 seconds or something like that, a fraction of a second for light to travel to your eye, for you to flip the image, for your brain to comprehend it, and then react to it. I mean, it all takes it's next to real time, but you're never actually here now.
But that would mean that you're using light as the thing that you have to process in order.
Yeah.
But what if, you have other senses besides vision with light?
It's still all controlled. All of your reality is still controlled by your brain. The way you perceive everything. So even sound, the sound wave has to hit your eardrum vibrates, the signal of the vibration is sent down to your nerves into your brain reads the message, and then says, this is what it is. And that takes a fraction of a second. So whatever you just heard, whatever you think you're hearing right this very moment, that moment's already passed. So you're never in real time, ever. It's always completely reactionary. And so what does that mean? That means, well, for one, you'll never experience death. You will by not experiencing it,
Unless you're reincarnated and you're just back in some else.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, I was recently assaulted and knocked out, and I don't remember that. The doctor was like, how long were you knocked out for? What do you mean?
I was uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like, is this a joke? So that's kind of the whole thing. I mean, if you're reincarnated, I mean, do you still actually experience death, or is it like when you're knocked unconscious and you don't know how much time has spent, you're not conscious, like nothing is there?
That is true, especially since time's kind of something we've constructed.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That was a mindfuck when I realized. I was like, oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that goes exactly into what, I'm trying to say, in that the sense that you're never actually experiencing things in real time, but that's the whole thing, is time isn't really real.
I had a thought recently. I was thinking, okay, so you know how if you put a plant in time lapse, you can see things unfolding, and through that you can realize that they do actually perceive each other and things like that. So what if they're just going through time slower?
Oh yeah, totally. Plants live significantly longer than human beings do.
Some of them, yeah.
Well, yeah, some of them. Some trees, specifically.
But so here's the thought. Are different people, like, you know how some people are like super hyperactive and like able to move through and like think really quickly and stuff like that? What if they're just going through time a little bit faster and they have more time to process?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I was really hyper as a kid. I'm still pretty hyper usually. Yeah, I mean, I still spin fire and skateboard, and I just have this abundance of energy I don't know what to do with all the time. Channel into other things, make art, music, run around, get sexy. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thought. I like that idea. I think that the way I process information is probably, I don't want to say faster, but I mean, it's people. This is the third time I'm being interviewed this year.
Really?
Yeah. And people tend to notice that I comprehend things, I guess, in a different sort of manner. And so I think that you're right in a sense that I think people do process information differently. You are totally right, actually, because there's low latent inhibition as well, where your latency or latency, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but it all has to do with how you categorize stimuli and how you filter it, like through your, I say your human filter, your human perception, because it's whole different rabbit hole to go down. But as an example, this microphone, instead of, you may see it as a microphone, or somebody else may see it as like a grill with a tube on it and buttons, and it moves, whereas somebody else may see it as each individual tiny little part and know how it's built, and so and think about how it's processing information. And it's kind of going about like what I was talking about when we originally set it up, like, oh, that has 4 ribbons in it, that's amazing. And I started,
It's fascinating to me how just understanding how something works changes everything about what something is.
I mean, it's like, I feel like most people probably, when they open a door, they grab the door handle and open it, and they don't really think about all the different mechanisms in the handle and how the door was constructed, and the fact that the door knob is in a hole in the door, like it's not a single unit, it's multiple tiny pieces all pieced together. And I don't think a lot of people really think about that sort of stuff, because it's not even just the physical as well, but the effort and energy that you spent creating it. It processes and other machines made of other tiny integral parts made that, and other machines and integral parts made that. It's
definitely
endless.
It's like someone's explained to me that a computer mouse, there isn't one person alive that knows how to make one from scratch, because it's just too many little pieces that have to come from so many different places. And yet we sell them for $10 at Big Lots. I mean, what do you mean?
Exactly. It's a computer. I don't think you could even build a computer from scratch. Like, all the information, and I'm sure you could, like, build it once you have the parts, or from a city. But I don't think you could just go out and get the
harvest silicone and start going at it. No, and especially not when you think about how it's one thing to get it physically there, but then you have all the software.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you build software from scratch
without even a computer?
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm fascinated all the time. So like the doorknob example, I'll think like, I'm an idiot. I have no clue. Like, I've taken them apart
Yeah.
Yeah, but who thought to put all this together and
Yeah.
how? And the original locks, like with the big skeleton key and like all the, like, what person was sitting there like, well, if I just make these little pins and rollers and shit. I'm like, I love that someone did that.
Yeah.
I love that someone figured out hydraulics. I like Archimedes, or what are these other people from the ancient Greeks and that figured all these crazy things out that for that time, wow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would love to do, to create something, that's like ahead of my time, but I don't think that, I mean, I'm still very young. That's a very hopeful thought, but I don't know. I feel that almost because of how much stuff there is, I don't even know how to explain it. Like because it's so overwhelming, the amount of information that's out there. And I wonder that, what if that is preventing some people from being able to do whatever their full potential really is?
I think so, especially
Like
since
if it's, I guess I shouldn't say full potential, but hampering their ability to be great, I guess.
I'd say so. And I'd say part of that is our education system and everything that society tells them is preparing them for a time that is in the past. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So they're kind of set behind from the beginning. They have to figure out how to function.
Yeah, I always did really well in school, but hated it. Like, I hated school so much, dude. Like, it was, in my experience, the way I thought about it all was just, I can read these books, I can do all this by myself, and I typically did, and then I would just sleep in class and stuff like that because it was like, I really didn't want to. There was multiple times where I researched how I can become emancipated, so I can drop out of school, like without my parents' permission, because I didn't want to be in school, and I was forced to, and it's just this weird concept that, like, yeah, you're right. It's so.
Yeah. I became incredibly aware of it as a child because I started at this school that was like a test school based off Harvard.
Yeah.
And they had like all the kids sat in a circle and talked rather than doing written work while listening. And the walls were all cubicle walls, and there was no fourth wall, so you could see into their classes.
Oh,
and no one
that's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool, and no one had any idea I had ADHD, like at all.
Yeah.
Then I moved and I got stuck in normal school, and my teachers hated me and put me in the dumb class, and then I thought I was stupid for the next 10 years. It's just, I don't know. It's insane how that little shift in the way you approach teaching, what the impact can be on the children.
Yeah, I mean, all my teacher, I was tested for ADD, ADHD, like all the hyperactive disorders constantly, because everyone was like, "Yeah, this kid's like crazy," and I'm like, "No, I just don't want to be here right now."
You're
boring. Oh my God, are you boring? Like, I feel so. That's I guess a thing that's negatively impacting me as well, is that like the way society tries to force everything to become standardized drives me crazy, because I don't want to be standardized.
Don't put me in your box.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a pretty successful career right now, but at the same time, I've built this career almost where I'm perpetually bored, because it's like, it's not challenging. I don't know, like, I'll have a task to do. We need XYZ done by ZYX date, and I'll be like, all right, no, I'll do it probably the same day. They're like, we need it done by this day, and then I'm like, okay, well, what's next?
Like, you're just sitting around waiting.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, well, you're paying me pretty well to be bored right now. I don't really know what else to do.
Yeah, and even that. So that mindset. There's so many people that. So they're given that task that is inherently boring to them, and they procrastinate and put it off to the end. But some people just get it over with, and they're just sitting around waiting.
Yeah.
And I feel like both are the symptom of the same thing in a way.
Yeah.
Some people just have their own issues, but for the most part, I think that's the deal.
No, I hear you. It's weird too, because it's like, I understand that not everybody is like that. Like, they're not just so able to do basically anything that they need to do. God, that sounds egotistical.
Well,
but
but I think again, if you go back to how people are raised, if they're not
Yeah.
prepared, then and you somehow instill in them feelings of doubt or shame or fear,
yeah,
it's totally conceivable. I think most people are a lot more capable than they give themselves credit for, simply because they're told that they can't, or
Oh,
they're
yeah.
broken down. And
totally.
I know I've been a victim of that, and I'm sure more people have that are in far worse situations than I am.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely one thing that I like to do now, and that I always have tried to do is empower people, give them the information to be whoever they want to be. You know, I don't think that there's enough of that in the world right now. I think because a lot of society is like, oh, you have to make money, you have to earn your living, and I'm like, I don't want to earn my living. What if I don't want to do anything really? Like, how do I earn that? Like,
Yeah. Oh, you mean I can just have food, water, shelter without debt, and then do whatever the fuck I want?
yeah,
Can-
that would be
that's-
amazing.
Yeah.
I would really enjoy that.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of my main goal. I've decided I want to not necessarily give that to people, but provide them with the information and resources required
Yeah.
to do that if they're willing to work for it. Like,
It's another big factor too. I mean, the resources to do those sorts of things. Like, as an example, the internet. Yeah, like growing up, we were some of the first people to have the internet, and what it is now is so different. Like my parents don't like my. As an example, I do all my own car work myself because I can just hop online and figure out how to do it from forums and mechanic talks and things like that.
there's YouTube videos.
Yeah,
Half the time it's not hard.
yeah. And then, you know, as an example, my father though, he still goes to mechanic and stuff and doesn't care to learn. Like it's a whole different mindset. Like, and he can do it. He's able-bodied. He has a shit ton of tools, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah. It's amazing the differences in generations, and I've thought about this because of the way schools are set up.
mm-hmm.
They sort of teach you that, okay, these people around your age, that's its own little group, and you don't really interact with the younger, older kids. Like, this is your
Huh.
wave. And that you travel through time like that all the way through adulthood until your brain's fully developed.
That's weird to think about. Yeah, I guess I never really experienced that, like quite like that though, because my sister's 12 years older than I, and so I'd hang out with her friends, and I'd hang out with my neighbors who were older than me, and then like my cousin's older than me, I'd hang out with his friends.
Yeah.
And I was always the kid. Like it's so weird now being like, I guess 26, and some of my friends are like just now turning 21 and stuff, but I was always the youngest kid, like
Mhm.
always. And yeah, I was never. I can't say that I've ever really felt that pressure to only interact with like people around my same age.
Oh no. Well, and for me it was actually the opposite, because moving around to so many different schools, I felt excluded from most of those groups because they had established that their whole life.
Oh,
So I was always
Huh.
like, well, I guess I'm gonna go hang out with other people
Yeah.
because I don't like any of you.
yeah. I generally don't like a lot of people in a sense. Like, I find that a lot of people, just because the way society is like, I don't want to say brainwashed, but you know, like one of my buddies is racist and he doesn't realize he's racist, and it drives me insane, and I try to explain it in as many different ways as I can. Like, that's not okay. Like, what you're saying is you're blanketing a statement across an entire race of people that is racist. And he's like, no, it's not. And he tries to explain like why it's not, and I'm just like, no, even in your explanation it's still racist. And like, it makes me not necessarily like him, but just not like that aspect about that he can't perceive what he's saying is it can be hurtful to other people, you know.
Definitely. But do you think, so from your experience, because I have my own, but from your experience, when you meet people like that, do you think that comes more from the reinforcement of this is okay at some point in their life, that get that thought stuck in their head, and then they're like, I don't understand. This is totally okay. Everyone told me this is fine, and this is just how I think. Or is it something else, like a lack of exposure?
I think it's kind of something. Well, yeah. I mean, ultimately, all of those things. But the problem that I see with it is almost a lack of self-awareness, like subjective self-awareness. Like, how can you step outside of your ego and your identity and your id, or whatever you want to call it? Can you separate your thoughts from that and be able to perceive yourself as somebody else would? I think that that's ultimately why some people are the way that they are, is because they don't have the experience or the tools or resources to get to that point. You know, like some of the things people say and do, I'm like, do you think about the things that you say? Like, do you have any perception of how you are, like, as a person? I really think some people don't, and they just do whatever instinctively comes about their thoughts. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, especially thinking along those lines, when I realized, I was listening to a scientist explain how your blood-brain barrier takes tryptophan and it converts it into dopamine. And if you have too many, I think, fatty acids or different chemicals that are common in food, it outcompetes the tryptophan, and then your dopamine level will drop down to that where your long-term thinking skills are that of a meth addict. I mean, it's that impactful.
Oh, wow.
And so I think about like food deserts, and especially in the country where they've gotten rid of all mom and pop stuff and it's just Walmart and this and that. And it's like between that and sugar addiction and the effects, like I'm not surprised. Yeah, but it's sad.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to help with those sorts of situations, but at the same time, it's like, where do you get the information for something like that? You know,
So you get the information for what?
So you can give to charities, you can go and help people who have established programs and things like that. You can volunteer, but how do you find past that, like the problems that exist that you don't know about yet, because you're privileged or whatever else, you know?
Yeah, that's hard without being exposed to it or having someone who truly understands it explain it to you.
Yeah. And
even then, that's just a perspective.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, being very privileged is definitely, it's weird because, like, with all the social injustice movements and things, being privileged is almost something that's I don't want to say slurred, but it's you know, like, oh, you're privileged, you wouldn't understand to do. You're almost excluded from the conversations because you don't know and nobody wants to explain it to you, and it's like,
which
I want to understand,
because they don't quite fully understand. Like Einstein said, if he's in reference to science, that if you don't if someone can't explain a concept to you simply enough that you understand it, they probably don't understand it well enough to begin with.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of activist groups get like that, to where they're like, you don't really know what you're talking about. You're just fired up because you've been given some information, which is true, but you don't have everything.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, that's one of the biggest things I struggle with too, is trying to convey my ideas and not sound like a crazy person.
Or a twat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because if people don't have the same base knowledge, it's really hard to make a case for something that requires a couple hours of backstory to truly understand. Yeah.
You know, as an example, you're like, oh, what are the biggest, some of the biggest things that impact you? Like, immediately I want to just be like, paradoxes. But that's not going to move the conversation along or really explain much of anything that makes sense to anybody else, you know?
Yeah.
It's like these big, wide sweeping thoughts from the macro to the micro that just creates all of reality and the complexness of the universe. Like,
yeah. but that's the thing about the internet, is that this doesn't have to be for everyone. It's for the people that do get it. Just to be like, oh, I'm not alone. I've had that thought.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is something too that I need to work on, is not really worrying about other people. Like
It's hard.
in terms of like a perspective and stuff. Like it's not that I'm concerned with how I look or how I appear to people, I think, as much as it is how I can interact with them. Like the focus on interacting with people, like at least from my perspective, is typically on them and the experience that they're having. And so I guess that's something that's a little different from at least most people that I talk to that are very focused on themselves, and I don't really know how to stop doing that.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard too because you want to express stuff in a way that they're gonna get.
Yeah.
But there's just some point at which you have to acknowledge that you're never gonna truly. You can only guess at what they're thinking or how
Oh
they're
yeah,
thinking.
totally. Well, I mean that, and you can also read on people's faces, their micro expressions, things like that. You can. I think a good way to put it is I almost experience my own reality myself through the collective of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like I experience my reality not necessarily from my point of view, but the point of view of the environment around me. Like I don't want to say that like a grass or tree or anything like that is conscious of me the way that I would be conscious of me if I'm human, but at the same time I feel like I mean, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, like there's a study where they put plants in a room and they had a guy come in and they told him, it was in a greenhouse, and they told him, go to that plant and tear it up. And they were measuring the electromagnetic activity of all of them. And they all started freaking out as soon as he started like hurting this plant. So they had him leave, and they came back and like mended the plant as best they could. And then they had the guy a couple weeks later just come back in the room, and they were still measuring electromagnetic activity, and they all started freaking out. Like they perceive, remember, and predict.
That's interesting.
Not that it's the same, but
well, yeah, but I mean that's the whole thing. Then is exactly. I mean that's the way I experience reality. I think is that it's through others, and like everything else around me. I don't really know how to explain it very well.
so it's like because you're conscious of other people and you care about them as other things rather than just being completely self-centered.
Yeah.
You let that affect some of your decisions or thinking because you want to take into consideration other things.
Yeah.
Is that kind of
in a sense? It's like being stuck in this sort of outwardly looking in perspective. Mm-hmm. And I guess I say stuck is because I don't really know how to sit inside myself, I guess you could say, and experience outwardly.
Mm-hmm. I understand that.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like that a lot. I'm overly worried sometimes about what other people think or feel about stuff, and I'm like, why? But how do I turn this off?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people are like, what do you want? I'm like, nothing. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nihilist for the most part, I guess. Like, I just don't care, don't know. But then when I think about it, it's like, the reason I think I am that way is because everybody else seems to think I'm that way. And so it's like, well, shit. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I spend, I care so much about other people that it gets to the point that it just hurts all the time. And so I have to stop caring at some point to at least to shut it off so I can be happy for a little bit and not be depressed all the time.
Yeah, I mean, who was it? I want to say like Taoism or Buddhism or something like that. One of the more Eastern philosophies, but they believe that there is no such thing as happiness, but only like lack of suffering, and that's essentially what happiness is the lack of pain.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Everything's weird.
Everything is weird. This whole place. I don't know how we've gotten to the point that just by existing in a certain geographical area, you negatively impact millions of people. Like, what do you mean? Why?
Yeah.
Everything. The food you eat, the clothes you buy, the car you drive, all of it. And I hate that. I don't know what to do about it, but I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, there's definitely no easy answers. I wonder if we'll ever get to a point where we can quite literally just construct a society that has perfect information. Like we were talking about that earlier. I don't know that there is such thing as perfect information.
But I think I would settle for a way of us having at least a common base knowledge in the way that the dictionary established what words mean, but that doesn't change what sentences are. It just means we all can be like, oh no, this is what this word means, and move on instead of debating about what it means. Or even if it's just like the most agreed upon, like for each word you have a list with a vote up, vote down thing, and the one that's at the top is the definition. Yeah, best articulation of what this means.
Well, I mean, that could very be a possible reality. What if we automated language?
I'm down.
Yeah.
So let's transition to future in the sense that based on where we are now and the kind of issues that we're aware of now, what do you think we either, like, I'll let you choose if you want to do as like a city, a country, a planet, like what do you think we need to focus on in the next 5 years?
Each other, definitely. There's so many social injustices in the world and just fucked up shit that, I mean, yeah, I really think the focus needs to be on each other and what we want a collective as the future to be. I mean, that's the big joke of it, isn't it? Like, there is no philosopher king.
Yeah.
There's nobody that can stand back and be like, you human beings need to do this. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the suffering in the world and a lot of pain that people experience is completely unnecessary. I think that we do have the resources and the tools to, I don't even know if fix is the right one, like the right word to use, but to, I guess, almost like abolish, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I would love to see a society as well in which it was more based on resource allocation, that also had to do with the human experience itself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to standardize it, but I think that, you know, the basics, if they're met, then what do you do after that? You focus on culture, you focus on art, you focus on philosophy, and sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Have you looked into Bitcoin very much?
No.
So one of the things that I thought was kind of cool about it is that the way they get more Bitcoins into the system, at least from what I understand, I'm not like an expert, but the way they do it is they use these computers to solve really, really complicated math equations.
Yeah.
And that each one that's solved gets more Bitcoin in the system.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like some inherent value to it rather than just arbitrary like money currently is in the US.
I don't get it.
So like
I mean, like, I understand the idea, but so you can essentially get unlimited amounts of
no,
Bitcoins?
there's definitely a limit of how many that will ever be made. I don't know what that is because again I'm not an expert on it, but essentially the concept was.
But isn't that still just a fiat currency system then? It's finite. It's not sustainable.
We'll have to look into it more. But
yeah.
But I know that their goal was to create value for each Bitcoin that's put in rather than just print it up because inflation.
Do you study economics at all?
No, I was listening to, there was a Intelligence Squared debate on it, and then Freakonomics had an episode on it.
Freakonomics.
I like Freakonomics. But,
Steve Levitt.
yeah, Steve Levitt and what's the other guy? I forget, but I like them both.
Yeah.
They do a very interesting perspective.
Yeah. Economics is really interesting stuff. I like it a lot. You should check out fiat currency systems though if you don't know
Finite.
the whole fiat. Essentially, it's the idea that because if you continue to print more, then it deflates the value. Essentially, it's saying that because it's the big philosophical arc over it is essentially saying that because it's a tangible thing that has no inherent value, then it's going to fail. It's like the big philosophical aspect to it. So there's never been a currency system that has ever succeeded, really. They all fail eventually, whether it's with the empire that's running it or just whatever. I mean, it's like if the US went bankrupt or whatever. And the US is bankrupt, but if, okay, let's say as an example that there's some crazy revolution and we break off into nation states as instead of a unified nation, you know.
Interesting.
Like the South rises again or some shit, you know.
The West rises.
Yeah, the Confederacy's here to stay. Anyways, let's say that happens. Well, who's gonna take US dollars then? Each nation state's gonna be in charge of their
own money.
But that's the whole joke of it all, is it doesn't matter. It's not real. So these people who are now creating these other fiat currency systems, there's no, it's just like any other one. Like there's no, it's not.
You haven't fixed the root core of the problem.
Exactly.
So
yeah. And I was recently reading about too, you know, there's so many people. I mean, money is the new God, basically, and it has been for a long time, but people treat it that way, like, oh, if I've got more money, everything's gonna be fine, oh, if our nation has more money and wealth, it'll be okay, but you know, like, even the thing that we consider to be wealth, you know, like the word wealth is tied to money almost, whereas, you know, you could have a wealthier abundance of personal relationships, satisfaction in living your life, you know? Mm-hmm. Anyways, what I was trying to say is that it's not even necessarily tied to the wealth of a nation, like why they fail or whatever, empire. It's always been because of resource allocation and improperly allocating your resources. And so I would love to see us back away from things like fiat currency systems like Bitcoin and stuff. Like, it's a fun idea, but it's not going to work. It never has worked. It's always failed. I think that, I guess in terms of the future, we need to start considering what we consider to be sustainable.
That's true.
And what that means to us as human beings.
But I feel like with money serves a niche that you can't achieve with bartering, because if someone doesn't want your pigs or your whatever you're trading, you're out of luck. But if we think of it as just energy, which is what it really is, then it changes things. So like if you look at Saudi Arabia, all this oil, where that's like a barren land.
Yeah.
They haven't necessarily earned that energy that came from, you know, millions of years of there actually being plant life and abundance there. Mm-hmm. So you take that and combine with the mentality that comes out of that area, which is this extreme fundamentalist Islamic ideas, which is where ISIS spawned out of and everything. Mm-hmm. So, but if you took away the power, the energy, which is the oil, they would just be there. They wouldn't have anything to leverage. They wouldn't have the energy that they do.
Yeah.
Nor would they be expanding. It's not that they're bad people or anything like that. It's just out of balance.
No, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't know. I see money as a tool almost, that is completely subjective. You know, if I have 100,000 yen and I'm at a store that doesn't take yen, I'm fucked. So it's one of those things where I think, and kind of going back to like what you were saying with oil as an example, let's say, okay, well, we have this much oil. Well, how do we know, like, how do we distribute that effectively to what? And I don't even think it's necessarily like socialism or communism or anything like that, as much as I would like to see an idea similar, but not to the sort of extent where everything is controlled by one party. I think it would be more interesting to see I mean, a combination of like technology, like you were saying, you could even read it up and down, like who wants, upvotes, downvotes, things like that. I don't know.
I'd almost be down with a system where instead of depending on anybody at all to make decisions, when, like, if the reality is you can't learn everything about everything, like if you can spend your whole life studying the interaction between selenium and vitamin C, then you can't know all of organic chemistry, much less any field of science, much less anything. So I think it just makes more sense for us from the ground up to decide what we want, and then have people that implement that transparently.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, the president, he's gonna save us. Haha, we need Reagan. What? Get out of here. Get out of here.
That's another interesting thing too. I think going back to what you're asking about, what do we need to focus on in the future? I think the way we think as well. As an example, ownership. You want to talk about like I own money, or I own this, or I own that, but what does that really mean? When we have laws and things along those lines, but where does ownership stop and start? I mean,
especially with ideas.
Yeah.
Because it's like all these patent stuff. Like, I don't understand
intangible rights.
Yeah. Why did we design a system where people could buy patents and then sue other people for money over that? Like, I have the deed to this idea, this concept. That's crazy, and that's running rampant right now. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but I mean, these are very old ideas that people are profiting off of, that it is in their best interest to keep it going.
I totally understand why they're doing it. I just don't know why the rest of us are allowing it.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do?
Well, I think in terms of like patents and copyright and stuff, the way it was originally set up, where it was only good for like, maybe 10 or 20 years at the most, that makes more sense.
I think it's 7.
7? Fine. Like, whatever it is. Like, if you can't make money off of it in that time, it's just an idea, like a lightning rod. Like, why are you gonna let people get the house burned down because you want to make money off of this idea? Like, I get it, but it's just a thing. And once you're dead, it won't matter. But in the meantime, you've let all these people suffer because you want to make money. But if everyone had food, water, and shelter without debt, there wouldn't be as much of an issue with that, I don't think, because people wouldn't, like, what are you going to do, take away my job? I don't care. I already have everything I need. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of governance in that sort of sense is a strange concept that I just struggle to really grasp why.
Yeah. I mean, I get why, in the sense that if there are other groups like, say, the British during the American Revolution, you need something to be able to defend yourself against that so that you can maintain your way of life. But then we took away other people's to get that in the first place, so it's kind of...
Yeah. Humans suck. That's basically it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, so that was what you think we should focus on. Now, where do you think, just realistically from what you've experienced and learned, where do you think we are going in the next 5 years?
I mean, seeing the way everything is going now, I can see things either getting a lot better or a lot worse very quickly. Especially because the sorts of liberties that people are just so willing to give up right now in the name of things like security or convenience is a bit frightening, because not that we have a tyrannical state right now, but
we have, what was it, not Doraville. One of the counties in Georgia, not far from Atlanta, had a tank up until recently. Like,
well, yeah, I mean that's a whole different thing in and of itself. The, was it 1033 program or whatever?
Was that the Pentagon thing where they give money to their locals?
They give them unused arms and things like that that they were going to use in war, that they built for war that didn't get used or did get used or whatever else. That whole thing needs to go away, but whoa, and some beer.
Whoa.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah. I don't remember what I was saying now.
We were talking about money and where do you think things are going in the next 5 years?
Either really good or really bad, basically. Yeah.
Okay, so with where you see things going, you said either really good or really bad. What are some of the things that you've learned that lead you to that conclusion?
I consistently see people giving up their liberties for nothing, basically. Essentially convenience, and while things can be more convenient, I feel that that's limiting. As an example, my laptop and my cell phone have been screwing up pretty bad the last day or two. It's been driving me crazy. Mm-hmm. However, it's also made me realize how much I depend on them to do things. You know, if I need to look up how to do something I don't know how to do, and I don't have access to the internet, how do I know how to do it? Fuck, I gotta hire somebody or call somebody, or I gotta
go to the library.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing, is it's not as convenient, and then it's more limiting. So I can see that becoming a problem. Just like, in the movie WALL-E, or
like with the FCC agreeing with Comcast and Verizon to fuck up the internet.
Yeah, dude, net neutrality. That's a great thing.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna really suck when I can't look up how to do something because it takes 3 hours to download the video again. Yeah,
that's gonna be horrible. Who knows how that's gonna play out though? So I mean, that's the flip of the coin on that is, because everything is getting to be a more convenient space. I mean, what happens when the people that are trying to fight against the oppressions, what if they win? And then we just have this crazy fucking utopian, well, I guess it wouldn't necessarily be a utopian, but this super convenient, everything's easy life. I mean, is that good or bad then? I don't know.
I don't think it'll be that though. I think people lump together foundational things with the crap you put on top of it. Mm-hmm. So just because you have open internet doesn't mean that there won't constantly be people trying to mess with it and do stuff. There'll always be struggles, but if you maintain a solid foundation, everyone knows what it is and how it works and why, then we can focus on the stuff above it. Because we know, oh no, what you're doing up here is going to mess up this foundation, so that's the reason why, not some arbitrary argument that's put out in the media or crap articles.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of societies fail when they're trying to pass information from generation to generation. They, especially with religion's a good example, how you've got centuries of telling people what to do, but you don't really explain them why, because there's a reason you don't want them to know why. And then they wake up one day and be like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
So moving on from that, what do you think you want to do in the next 5 years?
I want to do in the next 5 years? Mm-hmm. Probably travel. I'm probably going to do the Appalachian Trail, and then I think past that, I really just want to interact with people and challenge the way they think. Why do you think the way that you do? Who are you? Who do you think you are? That sort of thing. I really like discussing those sorts of fringe philosophical concepts, I guess. I said it could be really good or really bad. I mean, that doesn't really say anything. What is good? What is bad? I mean, that's the whole.
You're gonna frustrate a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can talk for hours and say nothing, and still say everything by saying nothing. I mean,
maybe you need your own podcast.
Yeah, I've thought about that actually. I've thought about, starting a blog documenting my travels, my interactions with people, and, shows, all the random things that I think about. I started doing a portfolio online, like for all the different things that I do. BobbyTaylor.info.
Shameless plug.
Yep.
Go for it. So that has like your music and everything else you do?
Yeah, sort of. I don't really know how I want to format it. It's got some fire spinning, some music stuff, some business stuff, consulting. I mean, that is the question. What do I want to do in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So maybe the thing to do in the next 5 years is figure out what you want to do with the next 5 years.
Basically, yeah. I mean, it's difficult because I am really privileged. I have a lot of information and I can have a lot of resources at my disposal, and so do I be completely selfless and do something else? Do I be more selfish? I mean, I don't know what the process is. Nobody gives you instructions, and so I guess it's just more of what I've been doing, figuring shit out for myself.
Sounds good.
Yeah, this is what I've been doing my whole life.
All right. Well, I think that camera died, so it's probably a good time to go ahead and end. But thank you. I really love getting to know what other people think and how they see the world. So it's
overwhelmingly
been a pleasure, though.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Cool. Well, everybody, if you want to know more about Bobby, check out his website. What was it again?
BobbyTaylor.info.
BobbyTaylor.info. And I'll see you guys next time.